This is a picture I drew quite some time ago, brothers and sisters, of obviously our Roro Noah Zoro, who's front and center this here chapter. But if you like this type of drawing and more, remember to follow me on all of the social networks.
One Piece, Chapter 193, Utopia.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome, action-packed, mind-bending tale of One Piece. Our last chapter, of course, saw the battle between Nami and Miss Doublefinger, one of my favorites thus far, only because of Nami being similar to Usopp in the fact that she's just so underpowered, and really fighting this. This person, this adversary that's way above her pay grade, let's put it that way. So, through the use of the Climate Baton, she had finally, kind of figured out how it works and feels like she has a good handle on it. And at the end of last chapter was pretty much just ready to unleash this tornado blast, the last, the final move that she, that it said in Usopp. And that's how the chapter ends. That's how this chapter picks up, is that she's like thinking in her mind, like what Usopp said about, remember the tornado blast. It's like, oh, you got to make sure that it's a one-use thing, one and you're done type of thing, right? So again, I mean, this chapter starts out with, them obviously going at it, and Miss Doublefinger clearly having the advantage. Nami had been wounded. She got one of the spikes, jabbed through her left foot in the last chapter, and she's obviously hobbled. She's bleeding. She's beaten. So Miss Doublefinger goes, and she goes to come at her again. Nami goes to hit her with a baton or to do something, and she winds up doing that sea urchin thing again and comes flying at her, And then she says about how she makes mention of Nami's injured foot and how she's not going to be able to stand on that foot much longer and blah, 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 right? And Nami's waiting for the right opening to obviously pull this ultimate attack off, this tornado. I always forget what it's called. Tornado something. But anyway, so she winds up going and actually sticking her foot up in front of her and kind of jamming it into old porcupine heads, because when she comes out with that sea urchin, her head turns into like a porcupine. And she's just like, you know what? I'm fine. She's like, and compared to the shit that Vivi's gone through and that she's been put through, it doesn't matter. 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, So she doesn't, she's basically saying, like, comparing it like this, and it's nothing compared to what Vivi's gone through, so I can take a little bit of pain, right? So then she goes in, and Miss Doublefinger is like, you know what? And she's going in for the kill to want to finish her off. Nami goes and then winds up pulling out and actually, pulling that ultimate move, that tornado move, and then makes some clever, thing about the tornadoes are coming or whatever. And as she does this, the actual Climate Baton, it looks almost like a spear, not a spear, like not a trident, because there's only 2 points on it, but it almost looks like a goalpost for football turned sideways, right? And it goes in these. She goes to do the move, and it winds up being like, kind of like the fists that pop out on the on the wire or whatever, the extended fist. It's like 2 little mechanical birds that pop out from the top and bottom. They're like tweet tweet tweet, and they just show this side view and them kind of coming at Miss Doublefinger and going over her, not really anything happening. So then we're thinking, oh, great, another one of Usopp's blunders over here on it, or maybe she read the directions wrong or what have you. Well, in the next page, it's kind of cool because all of a sudden then you see the baton itself starts spinning and starts twirling around and coiling up. Well, it's coiling up, but you got to remember that there's these 2 wires with these birds that have now gone past Miss Doublefinger and are now twirling and entangling her. So, and even she's like, oh, they're tangling me. So what it winds up doing is tangling her up, and then it uses that centrifugal force of spinning around to basically spin and just fucking whip her like 30 feet away into a wall. And I mean, it's cool because there's like an imprint of her smashed into the wall, and then you go and you see her, and then in the next panel or whatever, you actually see her body then laid out on the ground, eyes glassed over in white, knocked the fuck out, and just really, really kind of, I thought, a cool ending to a really neat scene. Because again, in my opinion, this is one of the better ones because there had to be a little bit more strategy. It wasn't just, I'm super powered and really can't be hurt as much as a normal person. So I can go to these incredible feats and strengths that are really kind of inhuman. Those are great too, but I enjoyed this one because, again, there was a lot more, tact and style to it. So, and the fact that it started off with her reading the other side of the directions, and there was all kinds of goofy party tricks coming out of there, and Oda never fails to make me smile, that's for sure. So that's how that one ends off, and it says Battle of the Back Streets, North Division, whatever, Battle of the Back Streets, and Nami, winner. So now obviously that one's taken care of. We then go and we have a few pages, and it goes back to back to the actual castle, or the palace in Alabasta, and Sir Crocodile and Miss All Sundays there, of course, and then Vivi and King Cobra is pinned up against the wall, all bloodied and beaten. And it leaves off right where I picked up about that whole Pluton, the Pluton stuff. We find out that I was right with what, to some extent, like I said, Pluton was similar to like plutonium or like a nuclear type of device. I don't know if it is exactly, but I know that the way Crocodile describes it is, is that basically it can destroy, a little bit of it can just destroy an island. So, and it's rumored to be there or something, and King Cobra, of course, is playing dumb like he doesn't know, and then you see like kind of like inner monologue word bubble about like that's, that information's passed down from generation to generation through the kings, through the royalty, but ultimately that is what, that is there. And that is what Croc's ultimate goal is, because he even says, he goes, okay, so I take over Alabasta, right? Now I'm the king. Okay, and then I got this Pluton, so now I can start to become bigger and bigger and get all kinds of pirates to enlist underneath me and basically just be my subjects, my subordinates. Anybody fucks with me, I've got the strength, I've got the numbers, I've got the army, I've got the country, and I've got the Pluton, right? The world government tries to fuck with me. Oh, hey, I'm going to go and blow up one of your islands or a headquarters somewhere, right? And I'm going to, as a show of force, and hey, buddy, I got all the cards. So he's basically looking to take over the world and be a superpower. And I really think it's kind of cool because it's total world global domination here. It's not just localized or centralized to Alabasta, and that's certainly what Smoker was talking about 20, 30 chapters ago when he said, you gotta, Tashigi, just watch what happens during this and how this all shakes out, because it can change the face of the entire planet. So very, very cool stuff. And then there's some mention of some kind of record. I forget the exact name for it. He winds up saying, well, because when Cobra, first let me back up, Cobra says, I don't know anything about what you're talking about. And he says, I figured you'd say that. Here's the deal, though. There's like a high-powered cannon that's going to go and hit the courtyard of this place and supposedly annihilate everything within 3 miles, blah, blah, blah. It's going to happen in 30 minutes. By my guesstimates, the rebels should be here to be fighting the Royal Army right outside where this is going to hit in about 20 minutes. So he's more or less threatening him and just saying, hey, listen, I'm going to wipe out all your people in one fell swoop. So then he goes and he asks about some kind of thing, and I forget the exact name of it because it was kind of a weird name now, but it's some kind of like some log of their history or whatever. And he asks him about that, and Cobra says, I'll take you to it as long as you don't hurt anybody type of thing. If you promise to do this, I'll take you to it. And, I think he's just trying to buy time ultimately. But what winds up happening is the scene goes and winds up ending up with Chaka going, and I guess he's just been kind of standing in the background watching this whole thing transpire. He goes, he's like, I can't handle any more of this. And he looks like he's got his mean face on and he's pulling his sword out. So I think obviously he's going to try to go and stop whatever's going on, with Sir Croc over there and stuff. So that is how that part ends up. And then the last third of the chapter, it winds up taking us to the fight that is starting, that is obviously happening between Zoro and Mr. One. And if you remember, Mr. One obviously has the power of the dice fruit, can turn his arms, appendages into steel, make them as hard as steel. So Zoro kind of comes at him with a couple of things, winds up coming at him with this one attack, and you can see it just clanging off of him because he's able to harden his body. So Mr. One goes and boasts and makes this big thing about how, yes, and I am as hard as steel. So then Zoro goes and he's just like, oh man, he's like, well, so to beat you, I'd have to cut through steel. And he's like, well, yes. And he goes, well, I can't do that yet, so I guess I can't beat you. So then he's like, well, what will you do? Will you give up then, And we know that's not going to happen, right? So I really like this, man, and I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen over the next couple of chapters, because this one's going to come to a head here. Zoro goes and he's like, you know what? He goes and he pulls his shirt off, and he's like, all right. He's getting all ready, unbuttoning everything. He's tying his bandana. He's getting all ready, strapping up his boots tight, making sure he goes, you know what? I've been waiting to be pushed into a corner like this for a while. He goes, this is going to wind up, this is great. This is what's going to push me to the next level and make my skill level jump that much higher, Basically insinuating that, listen, everything up until now, hasn't really been a challenge to progress me further, to make me better, And it's really kind of cool because everybody talks about the character progression and what happens. And this is truly like you feel like it's like, all of a sudden after this battle, it's going to be like, Zoro, level up, level 26, whatever, right? Because he goes and he's like, so I'm going to have to go, and to beat you, I'm going to have to take it to the next level, and I'm going to have to cut steel. And it's cool because he just admitted a minute before that he cannot cut steel. So this is him saying that I am going to push myself to the next level, and I am going to figure out how to cut steel. So very, very cool stuff. It certainly leaves off on a very high note as far as that goes. And my chapter question ultimately is, I know everybody for the most part is in the camp of, Zoro is a badass. He's one of the monster trio, all these other sort of things. I don't have many opinions on that. I like the character very, very much. But really, what do you think about his speech there? His kind of, okay, well, I can't do that now. And he's like, are you going to give up? And he's like, fuck no. I'm just going to take it to the next level. So I just want to know, brothers and sisters, what you think about, that statement and just sort of that mindset that he has, because I think it's great. Leave your comments and your answers to that question in the comment box down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation.
Damn Don Krieg. I really hate that man,
Yeah, well, Luffy fucked him up.